So in this video, I would like to explain the dative case in Russian. The dative case is the third case that can express words differently than the previous two. The dative case has multiple functions like direction, emotional and physical states, conjunction with verbs, addressing something to someone, or vice versa, age, and prepositions. Now, I'm not going to explain all of these concepts in the dative because some require more grammar, which can be explained in future videos. The most significant function of the dative is the directional function, and it's the only function I'll cover in the video. The reason why is that all of the other functions are based on the concept of direction, like in the questions to what, to whom, and to where. To understand all of these ideas, you first have to understand the concept of direction, and then you can learn the following ideas of the dative. For instance, emotional and physical states involve indirect object pronouns, which is a concept for a future video, like in the sentence, I am cold, which involves a different set of grammar. Addressing something in the dative indicates the noun to whom something is addressed, like in the sentence, I write to you, with you being the indirect object. The same concept works with age, like I am 20 years old. It also works with a few prepositions involving something that's being addressed to something or someone. All of these concepts are for future videos, and they're all based on directional function, to what, to whom, and to where, which are the questions that the dative answers. In the translator, to what, to whom, and to where are shown differently because it's a different type of expression. If we want to know whether a word is in the dative, we have to ask these questions to see if they fit the context. If they do, the phrase is dative. In this video, I'll only focus on the element of direction, which can visually be seen in a phrase like Adam gave flowers to Emma, with Emma jointly being the indirect object that I explained previously. Not all examples in this video will be like that because they involve new concepts, but I'm just giving a general idea of the dative. To understand how to modify nouns in the dative, we have to know the gender of the noun we're working with. This concept should be known by now because I covered it in the previous videos. The dative case works with masculine, feminine, and neuter nouns both in the singular and plural. However, the dative is the first case to utilize the same endings as in the nominative. What I mean by that is that nouns will have different endings when singular, but only two ways when plural. Within plurality, you simply have to look at the last letter of the nominative singular form, which is the dictionary form of nouns, and from there, you simply put the grammatical ending in the dative. Nonetheless, here's how nouns get modified in the dative. In the singular form, if a masculine noun ends in a consonant, add u. If it ends in i kratkoje, replace it with you. If it ends in the mягкий знак, also replace it with you. If a feminine noun ends in a, replace it with ye. If it ends in ya, also replace it with ye. If it ends in ia, replace it with ii. If it ends in the мягкий знак, replace it with i. If a neuter noun ends in ye, replace it with you. And if it ends in o, replace it with u. This is how you modify nouns in the singular form of the dative. The plural form, however, is very simple because plurality in the dative utilizes the last letter of the nominative singular form. If a noun, masculine or feminine, ends in a consonant, a or o, put in the end. Sometimes you'll have to replace o or an unstressed consonant with If a noun ends in any other letter, replace it with yam. This is how you modify nouns in the plural form of the dative. And to make learning simple, most of the phrases that you'll see will have very similar words so that you can understand the idea. Here we have the phrases go to the table and go to the tables, using a command with a verb. In Russian, the phrases are idти к столу and идти к столам. These expressions are dative because they show the direction of the command in the singular and plural. We know it's dative because by asking to what, we have an answer. Go to what? Go to the table or the tables. Идти к чему? Идти к столу or к столам. You can even see the borrowed ending from the question to what put at the end of the noun. In this case, we have a basic masculine noun that ends in a regular consonant. Therefore, we add u when it's singular and when it's plural. Considering that k stolu and k stolam are the recipients being addressed to, that's how we know it's dative. Plus, because Russian is expressive, we don't even need the k part because we grammatically know that stolu means to the table and stolam means to the tables. Still, the preposition k must be included within the context. Go to the museum and go to the museums in Russian are идти к музею and идти к музеям. We have a masculine noun muzey which ends in i kratkoye, and therefore we change it to you when singular, and because i kratkoye is a stressed letter, yam replaces it when plural. It's not because the sound of the word would be too bad, so we simply put yam instead. We know it's dative because we can ask go to what, or in this case, go to where. Go to the museum or museums. Идти куда? Идти к музею or к музеям. Go to the guest and go to the guests are идти к гостю and идти к гостям. We have a masculine noun гость which ends in the мягкий знак, and therefore we change it to you when singular and to yam when plural. It basically shares the same endings as from the previous example. We know it's dative because in this case we ask to whom? To the guest or the guests. Идти к кому? Идти к гостю or к гостям. Here's one example of a masculine name. Go to Adam is идти к Адаму. This is a very basic phrase because we have a simple masculine name that only requires u at the end. Because the names of people are singular, the grammar-changing endings in singular nouns work the same way as with names, depending on gender. Идти к кому? Идти к Адаму. Now, let's work with feminine nouns. Go to the car and go to the cars are идти к машине and идти к машинам. Машина is a basic feminine noun ending in a, so we change it to ye when singular and to when plural. Here we have a feminine noun ending in ya. Идти к деревне and идти к деревням. Деревня ends in ya, so we change it to ye when singular and to yam when plural. Here we have a feminine noun ending in ia, идти к армии and идти к армиям. Armia ends in ia, so we change it to ii when singular and to yam when plural. Here we have a feminine noun that ends in the мягкий знак. Идти к своей жизни and идти к своим жизням. These sentences don't really make sense, but again, I'm just emphasizing the feminine noun within them. Жизнь is a feminine noun that ends in the мягкий знак, so we change it to i when singular and to yam when plural. At last, here is an example that I gave at the beginning of the video, which involves a feminine noun. Adam gave flowers to Emma. Adam dal цветы Эмме. In this case, we have a direct object of flowers and an indirect object of Emma. Even though I'm using advanced grammar in this phrase, simply focus on the name Emma. Emma changes to Emme because again, the grammatical rules of changing endings in singular feminine nouns work the same way as with names. The difference here is that Emma is a feminine name that ends in a, so we change it to ye because it's singular. Finally, let's finish the dative with two expressions with neuter nouns. Here we have a neuter noun that ends in ye. Идти к морю and идти к морям. Море ends in ye, so we change it to you when singular and to yam when plural. Here we have a neuter noun ending in o, идти к окну and идти к окнам. Окно ends in o, so we change it to u when singular and to when plural. Overall, this is how the dative case works in Russian. As I said in the beginning, the dative also has additional functions, but I decided to not cover them in this video because they require more attention, which will be explained in future videos. In this video, I simply covered the primary and most important function of the dative, the direction to something, someone, or somewhere. Once you've understood this concept, understanding its basic ideas will be much simpler.